All right. There we go.
Perfect. So that's solar in general.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions about this whole trading of energy thing?
No, it makes sense.
Perfect.
Makes sense. So look,
Threw that in there because I like, especially after this section, it's worth checking back into the customer. Just be like, does that make sense?
So I heard from a buddy of mine who got solar recently that you would need a battery. So how does that work?
No, like I was saying earlier, right? One of the great reasons we can get you such a great deal is that we don't have to use batteries, right? Batteries are expensive and they degrade over time,
Okay.
right? Because you're trading energy with a utility, you're still going to have a utility bill,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're still going to have a JEA bill,
Mm-hmm.
right? But once we take a look at your bill here in a second, you're going to see that most of your charges on the JEA bill, JEA bill, come from how much power you use. There's one on there. I think it's about $15.
Mm-hmm.
That is just your basic service charge. That's literally what you're paying just to get connected to the grid. Now, some people, after they go solar, they tell me like, oh, JEA, I hate them. They're still taking my $15 every month. Don't look at it like that, right? Because honestly, you paying that $15, it's the best $15 you've ever spent. You're getting access to an unlimited battery that never degrades and that you never have to replace and that you're not responsible for. This is essentially you paying JEA for the one thing they're good at, maintaining the grid. Right? So does that answer your question about battery?
Yeah, that makes sense. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So JEA is basically my battery?
Essentially.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a good way to look
Cool.
at it. Perfect. So the next thing we need to do is figure out what's the best way for you and your family to go solar, right? There's sort of two big buckets in that. One is to actually own the system yourself.
Mm-hmm.
As I said in the beginning, it comes with a little bit of responsibility. But having said that, the financial rewards of that responsibility, huge, right? The other version is PPA, Power Purchase Agreement. And essentially in that one, a solar company buys the panels for you, installs them, insures them, monitors, and maintains them for you, all at no cost. But all they ask for in return is that you buy the power that those panels produce. But they're going to give you a lower and a locked-in rate for doing so. So let me ask you a couple questions to see which one we're leaning towards. How long have you been in the home, Carlos?
6 years.
Okay, very cool. And how long are you planning on being on the home? Is this your forever home?
I mean, I haven't thought about selling it. Don't know what to
So there's a
do.
chance you're going to be here for the next
Probably.
20 years.
Probably, yeah.
Very cool. Next question. Do you have a tax liability? Are you paying federal taxes every year?
Yes.
Perfect. I assumed when you told me that during most days you're off at work, but some people have some very interesting tax situations set up, and so I wasn't trying to pry, I was just asking.
Okay.
The reason I was asking is that the federal, remember how I said that ownership can sometimes come with some amazing financial rewards?
Right.
One of the main things that determine that is that the federal government, if you own your own system, will actually pay for 30% of it. It's not available if you're doing a PPA or a lease, but if you own it, they will pay for 30% of your system. But they'll only do it through a tax credit, right? Essentially, a tax credit is like monopoly money that you can only spend at the IRS. And so if you don't actually owe the IRS any money, what good is monopoly money?
Nothing.
Useless, right? But since you do owe the federal government money, you're going to be able to trade that tax credit into the IRS for cold hard cash, your hard-earned dollars. So with you being in your home long-term and you having a tax credit, I'm going to tell you, you have to purchase. The PPA is going to look like such a bad deal, you'll never want to touch it. Perfect. So now knowing the answers to those questions, let me actually dive into my computer. Give me maybe about 5 minutes. And hopefully at this point you've already given me your bill. If you haven't, could you actually round up that bill while I get this started for you?
Yeah, sure.
So I probably already have the bill. I don't know, maybe 5 minutes of typey.
Mm-hmm.
Get this ready, and boom! It's like a cooking show.
Okay.
Right? I've stuck it in the oven. Here it is. So perfect. So here's the presentation I prepared for you. First, allow me to introduce Titan, right? Titan's the installer we work with. Actually, if you look at the last 2 years, Titan is the 4th largest installer of solar panels in the United States.
Wow.
You know, I tell you, their warranties are great. They've done this literally thousands of times. They're very good at what they do. The reason I talk about Titan a little bit at this point is because they should know I'm not working with 2 guys out of a truck, right? Because some solar companies out there, it's literally what they do, right? It's 2 guys out of a truck. They might not even be from in town. They just drove out there, and who knows what they're getting. Right. Titan is, I mean, when you're the 4th largest solar installer, I think they get even higher on the list if you look at not publicly traded companies. Private companies, like they suddenly jump. I think they might even be the number 1, like the largest solar installer. Don't quote me on that, but but they're big, right? And essentially what you want to get across at this part is that you're working with a reputable company, right? They're A+ in the Better Business Bureau, all that fun stuff. I don't try to oversell them too much. I really rely on, they've done this thousands of times. They're the 4th one in the largest United States, 4th installer in the United States for residential solar. One thing that, you know, it's a slightly harder conversation to have, but do you know about Sunrun?
A little bit.
So the largest solar company in America, right, for the residential side. One of the reasons they grew so big is that, one, they invented the PPA. They were Lynn Jurich, their founder, the idea of the PPA is literally her master's thesis at Stanford for her MBA. So literally invented the idea, right? But the other reason they grew so big is that they have a massive partner network, right? Only about 30% of their jobs are internal Sunrun jobs. The other 70% are people like us, right? Partners, and people like Titan doing the installations for those partners. Titan is Sunrun's largest installation partner. Right? So if the largest solar company in America trusts them to install their systems that then they are responsible for the next 20 years, I'm going to trust them. Right? So, perfect. So this is what you're doing right now, right? You're paying about $190 a month for your electricity. Now, this is what you're going to spend on energy in the next 25 years, right? When you start looking at these numbers in the long term, they get pretty crazy, right? So now notice this, right? So we got down to crunch numbers and proposal, and then this proposal takes us to proposal. Proposal also has its own 6 steps. I intro Titan, right? I now talked about what they're currently paying, what that number looks like in 25 years, and we already spoke earlier about the whole gas pump example, but essentially, right, you've got this on here. No control, unpredictable rate increases, not to mention the harmful carbon footprint. I'd mention that if they're an environmentalist. If they're not, I skip it. But long story short, you don't want to be on this roller coaster ride of the utility bills just going up and up and up. So let's talk about your solution. Right, so as you can see here, I've put all the panels on the south side of your roof because that's where they're going to get the most sun. Right, I've built you a 9.46 kilowatt system, 18,000 kilowatts, about 31 panels. Here's the important part. It's going to be offsetting 95% of your energy needs. Now, in the character we were just playing, I would have got you 100 because your kids are growing up, but for this particular customer, 95 made sense, right? So you'll notice that there's months that we underproduce, there's months that we overproduce, and there's months that we underproduce, but all this is going to even out to that 95%.
Okay.
Perfect. So I'm presenting 2 options to you, right? One is a 10-year loan at 2.99%. The other one is a 20-year loan at 3.99%. right? If you went with the 20-year, you're looking at $184, and if you went with the 10-year, you're at $292, right? Now, $292 is about $100 more than what you're paying right now, but 10 years from now, poof, that bill just goes away. And as I mentioned before, so here in Vegas, you're paying $12.50 is the connection charge, but I've also left behind 5%, and so that's why it says $24 added to whatever the payment is. One of the reasons this woman isn't saving money on mine is I've actually added a brand new roof in for her.
This is pretty serious.
Can you pause that for me?
Yeah.
And I'll be right back.